get started. Thank you all for being here. My name is Christy Williams. I'm the town manager. Just to recap kind of where we've come from and why we're here tonight. We, as you're aware, we purchased the Boston Sports Club building, which is in Bay State Commons. It's a 64,000 square foot building. And throughout the process, when we were discussing purchase of this building, we talked a lot about our commitment to community engagement, to really understand what the community wanted this building to look like. So the parameters that we've sort of put together, which are minimal, is that we are going to move our senior center to this building on the first floor and our recreation department to the second floor of this building. Other things we've talked about is having a commercial kitchen in the property, and we do understand the need for some additional natural light in the lower level. But other than that, we really are relying on this meeting and other meetings that we've already had, as well as an upcoming meeting, to hear from the community what you're hoping to see in the building. Just to recap what we've done, we've had some stakeholder meetings. So our architects have met, and our OPM, Owners Project Manager, have met with recreation staff, council on aging staff, the Recreation Commission, which that was a public meeting that was recorded by Westborough TV if you want to look at that. Also a council on aging meeting, again, public meeting that you could view on Westborough TV. We also had, this morning, we had a department head stakeholder group. We actually invited Westborough TV to join us at that meeting. And then just before this meeting, we had a committee chair meeting where we invited chairs from multiple boards and committees to join us, as well as Westborough Connects to that meeting. At 2 o'clock today at the Senior Center, we had our first sort of larger community input session. And then this is our second of the day. These are the two opportunities today at 2 o'clock and the 6 o'clock meeting to do the in-person input meetings. We also have scheduled on August 5th a virtual meeting where folks can provide input. And then we also have a survey that has went out on July 22nd that's open until August 9th, which you can fill out online. Or you can fill out in paper form by going to the library or the senior center. So lots of opportunities to engage. You can come to multiple meetings, you can come to the meeting and also fill out the survey. We're just very interested in what the community wants to see in this building. Following this public engagement, the architects will create some design alternatives, which will be reviewed by the select board and then also back to the community for feedback. And then the preferred design will be the design that we go to town meeting with in October. So a really condensed process, but really hopeful that lots of folks will engage. If you know of someone who has ideas or comments that hasn't been able to come to one of the meetings, I would encourage folks to reach out to my office so that we can get your thoughts and ideas to the architect. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our architect from PH Building.
Hi, I'm Joel Bartman at PH USA, and I heard that the TV wasn't picking up the voices earlier, so if you have comments later, we'll sit down and have a mic, and the public would come up here and speak into the mic, and that way it'll get recorded, and people on TV can hear what your questions or comments are. So, the advantage of a community center is the senior center, the rec center come together, and you get so much more. I can show you some slides of all those things you get, but what we're really hoping is for you to tell us what's on your wish list, what's in your vision of how the recreation building or recreation portion might work, or the senior center portion might work. And then we'll begin to incorporate those ideas and as Christy mentioned, get some cost estimates. Just some background, it's a two-story building. This is looking down Union Street, in the middle of the Bay State Commons. The idea and the fit out of the sports club is on the second floor, and that's actually quite ideal space for the recreation department. It doesn't need a whole lot of work on that floor. The ground floor used to be what's called Steinmark, which is like a TGX kind of store, and that's been vacant since 2016. So the red circle, you're the furthest end, which is nice. From Main Street on East Main Street on the far left of the slide, it's not, the traffic sort of dwindled out going to the stores by the time you get to the new building here at the end, and there's quite a bit of parking around the building. We'll be doing some layouts and some work in quantifying that for next week. There's an existing entry on one corner, which is the old Boston Sports Club entry, and then Steinmart had their own entry at the other end of the building, and the two spaces today don't connect. When you come in this Boston Sports Club, you can only go upstairs, you can't go into the ground floor and vice versa. So one thing we've heard is the great desire to have that connection made. Okay, so looks pretty bad, but it's great space for a senior center. 20 foot from the floor to the bottom of the beams, so we can have nice multi-purpose rooms with generous ceiling heights like this. The column spacing is really great. They're widely spaced. But anything you see in that picture is going to come out because, like the ceiling, you can see the ceiling tiles are sort of wobbling. The lights are old, they're fluorescent. We'll get much more efficient light fixtures in the building. Obviously the carpet and the dressing rooms and all the store fixtures will come out. And that'll be 32,000 square foot of empty space to be programmed and probably not all of it built out at this time because you don't need that much for a senior center. The second floor is built out. It's got a nice pool. It's a little deep, but we can shallow it up because it's a concrete deck that what makes the pool is a concrete form. We can shorten that up with filler and make that a really good training pool for kids and for seniors and adults that want to do water aerobics. You don't want quite that deep of water. You want it more 3.5, 4 feet deep. So there is a way to renovate that pool. One of the things we want to hear is what folks think about having the pool as part of the recreation department space. There's quite a bit of space on the second floor as well. Let me sort of just give you a graphic example. I took what is a program for another community that's 20,000 square feet, 20,000 residents, and the same senior demographic, and I just put that on this plan to give a graphic to show if you put the program of a typical building on this space, you have about 10,000 square feet left over that we need to think about how to program and how to design. And the same thing exists on the second floor. There's a wonderful gym on the second floor. So how many senior centers have access to a gym where you can set up your pickleball courts if you want, or you can play basketball, or you can do any activity during the day? And the beauty of the synergy is that most of the seniors are at the building from 9 to 3. 3 o'clock's when the kids get out of school. So you have sort of free use in most of our buildings that have a gym and this kind of arrangement of that space. So the beauty of a community center for seniors, I think, is you get about 40% more space than you would get in a standard standalone senior center because you get to share these activities that are the pool, the gym. Then in the upper left corner, the big room is a wonderful floor that's sprung. So when you do dance or aerobics or Zumba, that floor is giving way a little bit and your knees don't hurt so much. Then there's another exercise room. So that's already built. We may have to put new lights in there. We may have to adjust some of the heating and cooling systems. But there's a lot to love on this second floor, and a lot to use on the second floor. So what we're here tonight to hear is to sort of get some input on, is that me or is that, I'm not doing anything. What people might want to use on the second floor, the pool. The pool is really attractive to some folks, and some folks really don't want the expense of a pool. So we're anxious to get some feedback on that component. What are some of the other uses that would go in a recreation department that sort of folks have thought about or visioned or dreamt about having? Space for teens, drop-in play space for preschoolers and smaller kids. Any sort of ideas on how to fit out this? Can't promise we're going to do everything, but what we're trying to do is capture all the ideas, and then, as Christy mentioned, put together some schemes with some different budgets. The first floor, has a lot more opportunity to it because it's really an open canvas, and we'll be able to get. Let's go back one more. We're not starting from any fixed walls on the first floor. We'll be putting some new windows in there because there's really not enough windows in that space. But with that, what I'd like to do is just open it up for questions or comments, and if there aren't any, we have a slideshow and we can show more pictures of what community center spaces are. There are two other factors. The one thing about programming is if you say, I'd love to have a space for kids, what's really helpful for us is to go to the next step and say, what's the flavor of that? What are the details of that? So we can make something that's a little bit more special. If you say, I'd like an event room for the senior space, if we can hear more about what goes into that, it just makes it better because then we have more information to build on. And then the end of this job is going to come at town meeting this fall. And we really want to have a good story to tell about the value of this project to the voters at town meeting and have them support the project so that it can be constructed right away in starting 2020-25. So that's the goal for tonight. And so what I'm going to ask is, the TV folks have said if there are comments or questions, if people can come up to the microphone, that'd be great, and then we can respond from those mics. So anybody that would like to speak, go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is John Gallo. I'm a resident since 1975, and I'm currently the adjutant for the American Legion and also the quartermaster for the VFW post. However, I'm not here to represent those two organizations. What I'm here to talk about is the need to provide a dedicated space for veterans. We currently have 555 veterans in town, and there's no home for them where they can come and congregate and exchange war stories if they wish, or whatever they would like to do. And so some of the things I've jotted down are kind of not in any particular order. Veterans really are unique in terms of their service. Currently, less than 1% of the population serve on active duty in the military. And so that translates to a tremendous amount of pressure on those active service people to do multiple tours of duty throughout their term. And many come home with physical disabilities, many come home with mental disabilities, and it's, in my personal opinion, we need to provide a home for those veterans where they can feel comfortable and confident that it's a cohesive group of people that can better serve their needs. some of the things that I would like to see in the program would be, we'd be running VA healthcare programs for veterans. Many veterans who get out of the service are not fully aware that the VA is there to serve them. I myself was told when I got out, if you don't re-enlist, you're on your own, which was really not true, but it was only 12 years later that I discovered that I was eligible for VA services. So there's a lot of lack of information, lack of transparency, and I think having a veterans community center, dedicated community center, we the veterans can offer programs that can help other veterans, and I think we're better equipped to contact with other veterans. So we have, a program to promote the VA healthcare services. And then there's the VA offers a whole variety of services to serve veterans that most veterans that I've talked to are not even aware of it. And I'd like to have something like this in this space if it's approved. Tai Chi for veterans, and it's very special. You can do stand-up Tai Chi, or you can do it in your chair. Yoga, and then they have mindfulness. A whole bunch of, there's about 15 programs that the VA offers to veterans, but you have to go to Worcester, or you have to go to Western Mass to participate. And by having a dedicated space, we'd be able to offer many of these programs here in the town of Westborough for our veterans. The center would provide veterans an opportunity to connect with other veterans, which is really important. I'm not sure that you know the statistics, but every day, 17 veterans commit suicide every day, way above the national level. And so, the men and women that come back from active duty that have served in a conflict, war, whatever, can come back with issues that have to be resolved, and having a space where they can come and talk about their experiences, talk about their needs, I think is really critical. And I think the town of Westborough, personally, they owe it to our veterans who put their life on the line when they sign our contract. And so, moving on, one of the things that we've talked about at the Legion, at the VFW, is the need to be able to have the space available at multiple times during the day, whether it's a morning, afternoon, evening, and on weekends. Many of the veterans living in town are younger veterans, not like myself, an old guy, and they have families, and they have kids, and they're very, they have to take care of their family, take care of their career, and so on and so forth. And so many of those folks can't come to our meetings, whether it's the Legion or the VFW, just because of the timing and the thing based on their time. So, in addition, we'd like to make it a welcoming center for veterans, offering a free breakfast, casual, informal, with no agenda, free lunch, and free dinner. And we can, sponsor other programs that help veterans. For example, you all are aware of the food insecurity issue with the rising cost of groceries and what have you in town. Well, not just in town, but throughout. And we'd like to be able to run periodically a food campaign to deal with veterans. A lot of veterans are reluctant to ask for help. But if you create a space for them to come and talk and share stories, they might be more open to getting help. I mentioned the suicide rate. It's really incredibly high. I just completed a program on it, how to deal with veterans. And there's a special way you have to communicate with veterans that are suffering from mental issues and what have you. And it's a real problem when you think of it. 17 veterans a day commit suicide. That's a high number. And the American Legion and the VFW have programs, outreach programs, to try to reach out to veterans who may have those issues. Having a community center would give them a space, a safe space, where they can come, they'll talk about whatever their issues are, and we can help them get help for that. And again, I want to thank the powers to be for the opportunity to talk today. Thank you very much.
John,
John,
he's got a question.
Oh,
I'm sorry, can you just come to the, just so that everyone can hear you?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll stand next to you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Butler, 17 Arch Street. Could you talk a little bit about the existing facilities, the VFW or the Legion, and, you know, what their status is
Yeah.
and what would be needed
Yeah.
to improve on those things?
Well, first of all, I go to the VA so I can speak from personal experience. And the VA just opened a brand new facility in Worcester on the UMass campus that offers a variety of programs. They offer yoga, they offer the Tai Chi. There's a whole slew of programs in addition to offering services vis-a-vis medical needs, you know, hearing aids, eyeglasses, problems with your feet, so on and so forth. Physical therapy, they have a program there for physical therapy for veterans that need to get back on their feet, whether they have a wound or not. But that's in Worcester, and the other facilities are up in Bedford, Mass. They're out in Leeds, Mass., which really, to me, going to Worcester is more convenient for me than going into Boston, which has a big facility in Boston that I used to go to, but when they opened a facility in Worcester, I went there. But do you have any specific questions vis-a-vis?
I think I'm thinking, does the town currently have a Legion post or a VFW space for veterans?
Okay, thank you for asking that. The answer is, speaking for the Legion, Commander Horrigan is here. We meet at the senior center once a month. We have a roster of about 56 paid-up members. Of those, maybe 20 show up for a meeting. And the problem that we're confronted with as far as the Legion is concerned is that most of the people that show up are people like me, old guys. And unless we recruit young blood, that post ultimately will go down the tubes. The situation at the VFW, most of you know, there was a fire roughly about 3+ years ago. And the VFW was looking at how to recover and do whatever to the building, but it's really all up in the air now. They have no place to meet. It's a much smaller group of participants. There's about 12 members. And of the 12, when we've held a meeting on the weekends, you might get 4 or 5 people to show up. And again, the age group, there are some Korean War veterans, many Vietnam War veterans, and even older people like myself who served in the early 60s. But I just feel that that the veterans, not me personally, but the veterans at large in our community deserve a home of their own and a place where they can congregate, exchange war stories if they want to, or just have a cup of coffee, have a light breakfast or a light lunch, and just make it more accessible, not within the normal workday, but evenings and weekends as well. Because the fact that the younger veterans married with family, have kids, they're working, and then the kids are in sports, and so that takes up a lot of their time, having done that myself. I hope I've answered the question. Yes, sir.
Hi, Marshall Preston, trying to make sure I use the microphone so that others can hear too. John, excellent job. Been a resident of Westborough since 2019, retired Air Force member and fellow veteran with many of these. I think part of the answer too is I've seen other programs in other states, cities that sort of drive at the younger veterans seem to gravitate towards physical exercise, some yoga programs to help with mental health issues, PTSD. So the only spot we have right now is the tiny office downstairs in Town Hall that takes care of our veteran service officer. And then, like many other organizations, we're begging and borrowing from the senior center, making it work, and gracious to all of their support. I agree with John that I think a dedicated area to create a home, a welcoming, let them know that there's a safe space, and then to hopefully partner with the rec center or senior center to offer that type of, whether it be dog-friendly counseling, reminder of the resources the Veterans Affairs offers, and then just connected to it. There's some friction on whether or not it should be multi-purpose. I don't know that we want to claim it all as just veterans. There is flexibility there, but we do think it's important enough to raise and highlight to the group.
Any more questions from them? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob, do you want to come up?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Bob Moore, 12 K Street.
Can you just speak into the microphone, please?
Bob Moore, 12 K Street. I've been here since '73, long-time resident. Actually, this is the first place I ever settled down. All the rest of it was wandering around the world. My question is this, and I hope someone can answer this. Is the VSO moving into that building?
So there is discussion about it. I think the purpose of these forums is to understand what we want to see in that building. So I do want to just underscore that veterans, this exact discussion has happened at every forum that we've had today. So we have heard this request very loud and clear. With the VSO came to the department head meeting. I think the chair of the Veterans Advisory Board attended both the earlier public session as well as the committee chair meeting. And I think, John, thank you for your comments, because I think that was some good detail. So I want that we definitely have heard that request.
Okay, yeah, because if he's there, that's more conducive to all of us.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm Chris Allen. Lived in town for only 50 years, not a ton. But 50 years sometimes flies by, and I'm a former selectman for 12 years and been on various committees, and somehow I ended up a senior. And I've been using the senior center as well. Today I went over to Upton to meet with the director of the Upton Community Center, which is brand new, it was built last year, to ask him what he thought was essential in a community center. It is a community center that combines the senior center. It's basically a lot of the library and things for small children, plus a senior center. It's a new building all on one floor. But the director, whose name was Matthew Bachtold, young guy, gave me some good ideas, which I think you've probably heard before, Christy, as far as senior centers go. One is a commercial kitchen, mainly because they run Meals on Wheels from this area, but also because they serve so many dinners to the community. Special events have dinners, the seniors have luncheons, and various programs have various events with food. So we thought that a commercial kitchen was one of the major points that should be included in a community center. Also, seniors liked a quiet lounge that was set apart where they could read or socialize, but some place that they felt was just theirs and was dedicated to seniors. And who knows how much quiet there will be, but hopefully there'll be some spaces there that has a sort of a meditation or quiet place to read and socialize. The other thing that Matthew thought was very important, which they did not put in this senior center but regretted that they didn't, was an office, a shared office essentially for the space, for the rental of medical equipment. What happens is many people, and particularly seniors, might have an injury that is only temporary. And while they're going through various rehabilitation, they might need a wheelchair, or crutches, or a walker, or various other medical equipment that they won't need forever, but they do need it for whatever time their rehab will take. In other senior centers and community centers, these can be loaned out to residents for nothing, and they're returned after they're used. Often people will donate this type of medical equipment after they've been used and are not needed anymore. So this office is also used sometimes for medical professionals or visiting nurses, because they come to senior centers and may offer hearing aid or hearing tests and fixing devices, or there are podiatrists that come. Various other medical people can visit a senior center, but they need a place to do so, and hopefully one with a door. This office can be used also for other types of office work if they're not being used constantly for the medical rental loans or medical purposes. Another thing that was important for them was a large meeting room. Now, the senior center now has a large meeting room. Upton built a great room for capacity is 75 to about 95 people. And that is used for big programs or for dinners and luncheons, for the seniors, dance classes and exercise, and any other large events that happen in the town. Townspeople as well as nonprofits can use this great room for meetings or for events. And a big room, I know our garden club and other clubs, nonprofits, meet at the senior center because there aren't many places you can meet as a nonprofit in Westborough. And I know being active in a lot of different nonprofits, we're always searching for places to meet in. So I would urge that we have at least several meeting rooms as well as the great big meeting room that is used. And we have one now in the senior center, and we need another. Another thing this Upton Senior Center and Community Center has is several classrooms that can have about capacity of 35 or 40 people, used for seminars, different kinds of programs, cultural programs, and again, smaller meetings perhaps. And they also have a small conference room for 8 to 10 people, so that they can accommodate meetings of different sizes that are needed in the community and also by the people who are using the senior center during the day or all the other activities we have throughout the evenings. So among that also is their concern that they needed to have a younger group. They're trying to attract younger people. This is a senior center. The 55s, I think, I'll never see that one again, but 55 and over. And that, I think, would be the gym, that they wish they had a gym. But luckily, this one will include a gym. However, there are also cultural things. a gallery, not a separate gallery, but an art gallery or a wall dedicated to show the artwork of residents, sometimes some of the school children. However, we would like to see what the artwork people are doing in town, and to have that a dedicated space, if it's wonderful, for that type of cultural thing. We used to have a stage. We were part of the Players Club, but that's unfortunately long gone. So a stage might be nice, but they are at different schools. So among the top things that this director of the Upton Community Center said, a commercial kitchen, a great room, a big one, several smaller meeting rooms of different sizes, and then this particular office for loaning out medical equipment and for private medical visitations. And they said that the seniors got used, they weren't too sure they would like this particular arrangement, but now, after a year, they're very happy. And he also told me that Whitensville Community Center has a pool. So perhaps Christy reached out to Whitensville to find out how they combine a pool and their community center and what they do, but it is a town that has a pool. And the director at Back Hall gave me the plans, his senior center, and some of my comments. So thanks, everybody.
Good evening. My name is Paul Harrigan, I live at 7 Partridge Road, and I've been in town for 52 years. I just wanted to add a couple of things to the veterans question. I'm the commander of the American Legion, member of the Veterans Advisory Board, and our goal is to support the 550 veterans financially sometimes, emotionally, and physically. And right now, we reach about less than 10% of the veterans, physically, face-to-face. And 10% is that we were lucky to get that on a monthly basis. We reach out by letter, by email, a variety of ways, the whole 550. We send them out materials, and we try to draw them in. But we need a dedicated space. 10% of what, you got 33,000 foot in the senior center, 10% of that would be brilliant. For us to have a dedicated space, because we could draw these veterans into us, as well as us going out chasing. We conduct calling campaigns, and the last time we called, in 2 separate efforts, Joe Tessino and Bob Moore called every veteran in town, and not one veteran said they needed anything. Everybody was fine, and we know that's not true. So we have to keep reaching out, because that's our goal. What John listed, all those things are fine, but we have to touch base with the veterans, because we know some of them need help, and we can help them. We run a few functions where we earn a few dollars, and all we want to do is earn so we can give it out to them. So our goal, we really, I'm up here lobbying, but we really need that dedicated space. The senior center has been fantastic to us. They give us anything we need, meetings and all, but between the meetings, the veterans have no place to go, so they don't reach out themselves. If we had a place downtown here with parking and with advertising, I know we could get them. And the idea of 17 veterans committing suicide every day is a statistic, but you think about that. It's so painful for all of us. So we really need this place. Thank you.
I
Hi there, I'm Lisa Borchetta, I'm a resident of town. I actually just have a question about the building. What is the total square footage of the building? And right now you're talking about the rec department being upstairs and the senior center being downstairs. What would be the square footage of those two areas? And is there anything that is remaining?
Well, it's approximately 32,000 square feet per floor. So I call it 30 and 60 for the whole building, but it's a little bit more. And so both floors are basically the same size.
So how much of the square footage for the upstairs would be being used for the recreation?
Well, that's what we're trying to determine now. If folks determine that they don't need the pool, then that space becomes available to be renovated to something else. But from a first pass perspective, you're not going to get rid of the gym. It's unlikely. And if you take those rooms that I mentioned that are really exceptional, the gym, the exercise room, the fitness room, those have nice wood floors, they're cushioned, and the pool, there's about 10,000 square feet of space left over after you take out that space.
And downstairs?
Well,
Are you
downstairs,
giving up the whole
well,
15,000 square
we
feet?
don't know yet. We haven't done that, but the only thing I showed in the slide was I took a comparable town with comparable seniors just to say, here's roughly how much space might be used for a senior center and typical, and how much you would have. So there's some space left over, about 10,000 square feet.
Thanks, that's my only question.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Storm. I live at 17 Walker Street, and it's kind of been a tradition to say how long you've been in town. So I've been in town since 2015. I moved to town when I had 2 babies, and so I'm talking from that perspective of being a mom of 2 young children, and how isolating that can feel sometimes, especially when you move to a brand new place. My family, I grew up in Western Massachusetts, so my family wasn't next door, even the next town over, and I didn't know anybody here. So, but I had a very unique experience right before moving to Westborough, where my husband had a bubble assignment in Sweden. So we just went there for 3 months, lived there with our baby, and in Sweden they have these amazing community centers for everybody in each neighborhood, actually. And there was a space for parents of small children to come and gather every single day during the day. And it was amazing because I also moved to Sweden not knowing anyone, and I had a baby. And it was a great space to just be with other parents with small children and to get that connection. So I would really love to see a space that was flexible for really young children. In that same vein, along with what Chris said about meeting space, I'm also the chair of the board of directors for Westborough Connects. I'm also a Girl Scout leader, and so we're always looking for space to be. Westborough Connects specifically, I'm thinking about just like community programming and also wanting to offer babysitting. And so having a room that is flexible enough to provide babysitting for all age children, I think would be really amazing. Love the pool. Keep the pool, keep all the gym stuff, keep everything that was there for Boston Sports Club. I'm a big fan. I used to be a member there. And then, I think I had something. Oh, decor. I know that we're talking about architecture right now. But I really would love it to be a place that seems welcoming and warm. Feels like a place that everybody belongs, where people can come and sit and have coffee, as you said, but also gather for meals. So that if they have a commercial kitchen, to be able to have community meals. I love the idea of, people just gathering there. I know church attendance is declining across our society, and so we're looking for third spaces that are secular, that people can gather. and enjoy a meal together. So I think that that's really, really important. And, oh, two more things. Autism friendly. So thinking about having quiet spaces, as well as thinking about just accessibility for all sorts of folks. And then I have a question about the outdoor space. So I know we have a lot of beautiful outdoor space in town, a lot of recreational trails. So my husband is home with the kids right now, but he has a dream that I just figured I'd put forth here of a mountain bike park. And he thinks the space behind this building, I don't know who owns it or what it is, but he has a dream. And it might not be that space, but just because this is now going to be a community center space, I just figured I'd pitch that and ask what the outdoor space might look like in terms of green space for the building.
So just to answer Kate's question, so we have heard from some folks about outdoor space. We do have some restrictions related to our reciprocal easement agreement with the other buildings and owners on the property. That being said, I can't sort of rattle this off right now, so we are going to understand that better. You can just come up to the podium.
Hi, Liz Butner, 17 R Street. I just had a follow-up question for Kate. I was intrigued about what you saw in Sweden as far as spaces for young kids. Because, it's easy to say, well, we need a room for kids, but I think that it would be helpful if we talked more specifically about, well, what would be special about this space? And maybe there were things that you saw or remembered from your time in Sweden that made that young kid space special. So do you have anything you could add?
Hey. Thank you. It was 10 years ago, so it's going to be a while. But basically just like really comfortable space that you can be on the floor. When you're with small children, you need to be able to be on the floor. So mats, everything that is like only up to a chair rail height in terms of like accessibility for children. So wall space that you could attach things to. And then of course, if we're thinking about it for a babysitting space, you want it to be able to have toys and all of those things. So I'm not sure who would fund that and supply that. But the actual physical space needs to be enough so that it's roomy enough for, like the spaces that I was in were roomy enough for at least 20 parents and children to be in at one time, with loads of different toys and activities and things like that, small table chairs and things like that. But I can go into more detail, but I can also just like email that to Gracie too.
Hi, good evening, Steve Hart, 22 Brewer. I've only been in town since '06, so yeah, I'm really new. But just a few thoughts. When I hear the term community centre, and first of all, I'd like to thank John and his colleagues for the words they spoke and what they told us. Tells me not so much about a community centre, but just about us as a community. And it's up to us, whether it's in the centre or whether it's elsewhere in this town, we need to support and make sure our veterans are looked after and cared for, full stop. But what concerns me a little bit here is that I hear the words community centre, but then I hear senior centre, rec department. We need to make sure this is integration and not segregation, that it is actually for the community. God's sake, yes, you keep the pool because it's the only thing that everybody from the age of 6 months to 99 can use. And I think really one of the things we need to actually make sure we understand here is that this is actually about a space, and it's about what activities we want to see in that space. And so I really have a question here, I think, for the rec department, which is, what are the rec department offerings? We talk about the rec department, and somebody said to me, oh yes, they're going to move them from the town hall to the community centre. I think that's just a very small number of staff. What I'm hoping is that, or assuming, is that the rec department is going to take responsibility for, is everything on that second floor? I don't know, on that top floor? But I think we need more understanding of what activities, you know, are not just designed, but are actually being offered in the first place so that we can add to that list. So I just thought, you know, just throw that out there and hopefully you can respond to that. But really and truly, as I say, this is about integration. It's about, I mean, some of the things that Chris Allen just mentioned that come from other towns, absolutely fantastic. Some of the things that Westborough Connects, I know, have talked about, you know, really good stuff. We want something that people can actually come into as the community centre, in which it happens that seniors have some space and some activities, that veterans have their space, but they have activities, that everybody has a reason for being there. That actually it becomes a destination rather than somewhere that you feel you shouldn't go into because it's not your space.
Yeah, and I think that that's what Joel's slides were trying to show, is that there's space that might be used by those two groups, but there's also additional space, and that's what we're trying to gather from people, is what do you want to see in those spaces. So maybe some ideas that we've talked about before that haven't come up today would be helpful. So one is a performance space, an auditorium, a small auditorium. I think we've also heard about, you know, how the commercial kitchen can be used. We have a kitchen in the senior center now. Can it also be used for cooking classes? So these are the kinds of things that we're interested in hearing, and those are just two ideas that we've heard, so that we can create that space. I think to Steve's point, we have heard from the seniors in the community through our senior needs assessment and also this engagement process, that there should be dedicated space for seniors, at least during the time in which the senior center is open. And so I think that's why we're sort of talking about that space is going to be on the first floor. The recreation offices and a lot of the programming they're going to do is going to be on the second floor. But I think we have heard exactly what was just said, is that, and I think we all feel this way, is that it's an integrated, multi-generational community center, and we're just excited to hear people's ideas of how we would fill in all of this space.
Kelly Petralia, this one? 143 Fisher Street. I've been here about 25 years, and I have 3 kids who are almost all teenagers now. So a lot have already been said, but a couple of things that come to my mind is, you know, this will be sort of like, use the analogy of like a house, like our community house. So teens need their own space, you know, parents need their own space, everybody needs to kind of go in their own space, and I think that's really important. The veterans need their own space, and seniors. And then I think about what's important, not only the shared space, but the transitions between the space. So we don't want people to be like, oh, that's just for like the veterans. Like, yes, that is for the veterans, and look at that, that's where the veterans go, you know, or something like that. So the transitions between spaces have to be welcoming or inviting, even if, you know, we still aren't going, everybody's not going to all those places. I also think about like it being a place where people can go to get the pulse of the community. So like you want to know what's going on, it's like check Facebook, check all of these different places. There's no like one source for everything. And this, if you can walk into the community center and there's like a huge bulletin board with everything, or you know you're going to see people that are going to tell you what's going on. People to help, you know, the Rotary does their twice a year or something, their repair cafe. Like there's opportunities for those sort of pop-up stuff. People can walk in. So there's the pulse of the community, it feels. And then like maybe the opportunity to have like a spirit store or something. I mean, we're a very full of pride town. Could that be a way of raising funds even? If we had, I know the senior center in Hopkinton has a store and they raise a lot of funds for their activities and things. And so that could help keep some things sort of free. So that's about it. I can say a million more things. I'll be
Jack Morrison, 39 Moore Street. I've been in town 47 years. Raised my kids here. It's been a great place to live. And when I heard we were going to do this community center, I was elated because I've been saying for years, I thought that was something we really needed. But I wanted to make sure that it was going to be a multi-generational community center. I went to the meeting this morning at the senior center, and I made this same statement about it being multi-generational. And the seniors seemed to be a little concerned that they were going to get overrun, okay? And I don't know how I can assure them that we're not going to let that happen. They need to have their own dedicated space. You know, it's very different when you're a senior than when, you know, if it's your grandchildren, it's one thing, you can put up with it. But if it's other people's kids, not so much. So, my thing is there's so much stuff that we could share. And one of the comments you made this morning, this one blew me away. You made a comment about being able to play chess. I have been thinking about what kinds of things are multi-generational. Playing chess, the seniors against the kids, both sides are going to love that, okay? The pool, excellent, excellent. But me, I'm a theater guy. I would love to see something that resembled a theater because all the theater I've ever been involved in has been very multi-generational. So it's those kinds of things where I don't want to talk about the senior space and the rec space as being two halves. I mean, to me, there's a space that's going to be dedicated to recreation. There's a space that's going to be dedicated to seniors. And then there should be a big space that is used by both groups, depending upon what's going on. Maybe you have to schedule it, maybe you don't. But we could share it, and it generates that kind of community that I think that is what we're all really looking for. So, thank you.
I apologise because one of the things I did miss earlier when I spoke, it does slightly concern me when I look around this room and I think about the diversity of this town, and I just wonder what outreach has been made to perhaps other groups who may not be represented here. Did we actually publicise this meeting in a different language? Did we actually do any outreach to community groups other than the ones that are represented here? Because I think we may otherwise be missing a very big opportunity. Again, it's about integration. And this town is not what it used to be. This town is a very diverse town, has a growing diverse population. And I think we need to make sure that at least we try to make sure that other interests are represented as we go through this process.
Hi, Alan Zola, 6 Cedar Street. I've been a resident for 3 weeks now. So first of all, thank you, Citizen Architects, for putting this session together. How much time and energy that was into.
Could you speak over these standing?
Oh yeah, testing.
Step right into it. Turn
Yeah, so thank you all for putting this together. How about now?
That's
Right. And to amplify a little here. But no, I agree with everyone's sentiments. This is such a unique opportunity to create a truly multicultural, multi-generational center. And so, you know, if we are reaching out to stakeholders in the community, it would be important to make sure that we try to capture every background in the community. So I do agree strongly with that, with the gentleman before me. Chris Allen stole up a lot of my ideas, but I want to echo the meeting rooms, the medium and large meeting rooms. I think those would be really important. A bike park would also be a good idea, I think, for folks who are biking in from a little further out or not walking distance but don't want to drive in. That could be a great idea. And I know this is a little outside the scope probably of what we've been looking at, but even maybe an MBTA connector. I think the commuter rail is one of Westborough's gems. So if we're really looking at a space where, oh, there it is. If we're looking at a space where veterans and seniors and young parents and kids are, meeting together, think about day trips to, Worcester or Boston. I think having a connectors to the MBTA commuter would be good. Otherwise, that's my list. And again, thank you for putting this together.
We can show a few examples of this sort of integration. And I'll do it in a couple different ways. The slide that's up is a typical multi-purpose room in a senior center. So it's 2,500 square foot room. It's got a divider wall, and they have congregate meals. They have breakfast, and as a result, this multi-purpose room that's built for the community is dedicated in half to meals that you can't move those tables out every hour for a different program. So what some community centers are doing is they design a cafe so your meals are much more casual, and then your multi-purpose room can be used at any time without having to move tables around, so it makes it a more of an integrated facility because folks can use that multi-purpose room at more times, and it's not just the seniors' congregate dining area. So, and people prefer this kind of more casual. So it solves the spatial problem, but it also, someone said, socialization and gaming, so people are there playing cards and having lunch. Let me show you a couple other ideas about integration. This is actually a youth center, and I sent another client to Andover where we just finished the senior center, and they were wanting to see North Shore senior centers, and they popped into the youth center that's next door. They share facilities, although they're two separate buildings. And I loved it. They came back and said, well, we want the youth center space. We don't want the senior center space. They like the vibrant, modern decor. So that's the kind of thing that we'll be looking to get impact and input from. I got two other examples. I got a multi-purpose room in the kitchen, but this is if you think of a typical commercial kitchen as a commercial kitchen, you're losing out on the potential. What you want to think about is how do I turn every space in the building into a program space that can be used for education or fun or socialization. So in the middle of this kitchen is a table that's a prep kit table, but it's also, you can have a teaching class, you can have kids from the high school come in and do recipes with seniors. So they have all sorts of activities that happen in the kitchen as opposed to just cooking. Meals on Wheels is in the back corner of that with their own door. So it's a multifunctional space, but again, it's sort of this idea of integration. That's a senior center kitchen that's now turned into a community type space for all groups. Here's two So there's a lot of talk about event spaces and multi-purpose spaces, and this is, I mentioned the Andover, the two spaces share spaces, so this is a shared multi-purpose room between the youth center and the senior center. And it's not, doesn't have the wrestling mats on the floor all the time, but the picture is there to show you that, yeah, there's a stage with the black curtain on it. There's lights so it can be a theater. There's a wood floor so it can be a dance. Those big storage rooms on the side are for the wrestling mats. So this idea is, I think it's a great word, integration as opposed to segregation. You have a black box kind of room and then you have storage and spaces surrounded so that that room integrates all these different uses into one facility. And right outside of that room, there's a multi-purpose room where kids can do music, but then there's also the Andover TV is outside of the multi-purpose room, and then they have a kids program for the kids to intern on the video display. So it brings in not only seniors and other groups, but an educational component. Another way to do it, and I got some good comments on this with accessibility, but this is a 3,000 square foot multi-purpose room, and the way they integrated this is a town in Maine, Kittery. They have 5,000 people, and how they built the community center is they had, not unlike you, they had a school. You have the Boston Sports Club. They had the space that they needed to use. Someone said they want a theater, and together we all came up with this idea of you have a multi-purpose room that's a multi-purpose room with the theater seats back against the wall. When you want to have a theater event or a dance or a dinner, you can pull the theater seats out and completely change that room. So again, that basic room that's a senior center, multi-purpose room, or a recreation multi-purpose room takes on a much greater need in the community, and quite frankly, you can see that different activities, including rental activities, out of a very generic space. The cost to make that room from a multi-purpose room into something that could be a performance space was about $200,000. And that's for the lights, so there's specialty theater lights, special ceiling for acoustics, blackout curtains on the windows, and the theater seating. So it's an interesting way of taking a simple space and making it more usable for greater parts of the population. So I really appreciate what you're saying about integration.
Do we have anyone else that wants to make a comment or ask any questions of the architect?
I just want to say something to echo what some other people have stood up and said. We have this great opportunity to use this huge building and put in programs for all of our residents. We would be completely missing the biggest opportunity to make it an intergenerational center where people can interact with each other. All of the spaces that you're talking about could be shared. Sometimes people might be doing something, it might be a program at for the older adults that just older adults are going to want to go to. But having things where kids and adults and teens and parents, younger parents, can get together is the best thing for our community. It, I think, builds strength, and the more that we get to know each other, the more it breaks down the divisions between ages, and that's really important. So I think if this does become, and it's exciting to me to hear so many people saying this, if this is in fact an intergenerational community center, I think that we will have an incredible gem for Westborough.
I'd like to echo that so that everybody hears it loud and clearly. I think the community center is a space where we is the operant word, and that it's intended to bring us all together in ways that we are unable to do right now. And so I think that if we think in terms of space versus programming, I think the most helpful thing for the architects right now is to hear from us what kinds of things would we like to do together, and then let them figure out how to use the space in a design the space in a versatile enough way with movable walls and extendable seating and things like that, so that they can accommodate the kinds of things that we would like to do together. And finally, I'd also like to think about new and different uses for our library, which is also being renovated, and how those spaces could also fill some of the needs that this community center is not, envisioned. So think about quiet areas or different spaces and activities that could take place at the library. So, thank you.
So just in comment to that tonight's not the last time to provide comments and interest. There's the forum next week. But then there's going to be some outreach when we have some alternative schemes. And so ideas can be passed along at many points along the way. It's not that after tonight we can't accept any more comments.
Gail Walker. I live on Mountain View Drive. I lived in town for 53 years. Raised my child here, went through the public school system. No longer lives in town because she couldn't afford to stay in town or raise her children in town, which saddens me that she couldn't do that. But I was there at the senior center this afternoon for the meeting that took place there. I need to stress to you, yes, it needs to be intergenerational. Without a doubt, that is important. But the seniors in this town, not all, but a good percentage, and certainly the percentage that were there at the meeting today, are concerned that our senior center is being taken away from us. We don't move as fast as the young people do. We want to do things differently than the young people do. And we want to have our own space. Yes, there will be times that we can generate and we can work together, because we love when the high school students come to the senior center and do programs with us and offer different kinds of things. And we support the veterans without a doubt. We wouldn't have the country we have without you veterans. And you're very important to most of the seniors if you were to ask them. But please remember, we need our space. As one of the people said, there are 200 more seniors, a couple years ago, 200 more seniors than there are students in the school system. The students in the school system have 5 buildings. We only have 1 space for the seniors to meet. So we need to continue to have that space. And yes, combine it, because the youth need their space, and all the examples that you folks gave are very, very valid and very important. But please, don't put it in such a position that we cannot have our own individual things. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing that just dawned on me? You know, a lot of this intergenerational thing, I think is going to lie on the recreation department. Because I think, and you made this comment, it's the programming that's going to make the biggest difference. The building isn't going to matter as much as the programming, because expanding it in this space would give the recreation department and the senior center and the council on aging the space that they've always wanted to be able to do the programming that they wanted to do that they couldn't. So I think that in itself is going to make the biggest difference and make this really successful. So.
Hi, Emily, new resident to Westborough this year, Cedar Street. And I just wanted to say, number one, it's been so wonderful meeting everyone in the town of Westborough. My husband and I have felt so welcomed by all of you, and we're really excited about the idea of this community center. And I definitely agree that with what some people have said about flexibility of space, because I hear you say you want to hear what kind of rooms you want, like a quiet room or a game room or a arts and crafts room, and I think that I want all of those. I was filling out the survey, and I said these all sound great. So I think flexibility of space where we could have all of those kinds of activities would be really wonderful. And I just wanted to say, I'm really excited about the idea of a multi-generational center because, some of the most fulfilling friendships of mine are with people different generations, older and younger. And I think also, I think separate space for different, communities is really important. But I think what's really valuable about this space is that, we've talked about seniors and we've talked about the youth, but there's a lot of different generations in between. And this space gives the opportunity for all of us to also have a place in town to gather and to, I think, like you said, kind of have this home within our own hometown. So I really appreciate everyone's comments and being able to speak here even as a really new resident and, hopefully in 50 years, I'll still be coming to town here. Things like this. Thank you.
Hi again, Marshall Preston, this is working. Like everybody in here, I gained a little more confidence in this presentation when you started showing the next iteration of slides beyond just senior center and rec center. But I agree with you that the programming is going to be key, and the friction point is when 2 or 3 entities want the same space. And I do think there's competition, so you have multiple rooms that serve similar purposes, et cetera, et cetera. And like everyone in this room, I wear a ton of hats, so I am a veteran. Following up on that, I do think, I want to reiterate that I too think we need a dedicated space for that community. We are willing to share into that programming. We look forward to that programming. Job transition, job training, a video teleconference, Zoom workspace to reach into the family members that are deployed so you can communicate with them, I think is a great resource. I'm a brother to a special needs, Down syndrome, so when I put that lens on it, I think of the Sugar Shack and job training resources for that community, access, growing their skill set. When I think of neighborhood, I absolutely reiterate the diversity, the language training that might be necessary, again, job training and welcoming into the community, finding the resources and sharing with them. From a father, we've got 3 kids, varying age, so we are customers and users of the rec department. Participant and active member of WASA, a scout leader, boys and girls, and we are constantly fighting for space. I love the commercial kitchen idea and the ability to use it as a training space, adult education, job training for Down special needs, for immigrant families, et cetera, and then a spot for using it into the multi-purpose space. I love the theater idea and the piano and music. I think that's a spot that brings community together. Was a competitive swimmer, so I love the pool too. I also actually like the deep part of it, because at some point you do need to get your feet off to practice that capability. A pool table, a foosball table, a ping pong, puzzles, chess, a reading nook, small rooms to reserve for a conference or a video teleconference with folks as you're job searching, interviewing, etc. I think I got it all. Thank you.
I don't see any other folks wishing to make comments, but as we've said it a few times, this is not your last opportunity. Please fill out the survey. Feel free to join us on August 5th. We'll be sending out the link. And then again, please feel free to email into our office. So you can email myself, town manager, or Celia Moore is our administrative assistant. We are excited to hear from everybody. So thank you for joining us tonight.